I mean, if it's self-illuminating, doesn't that suggest that there's something physical there?
Well, maybe like what's your definition of physical? Like were you talking about like a tangible rock, or like is light considered physical in what you're
No,
saying?
the object that's emitting light, unless you just have a ball of light in the sky. Is it?
Right, because like one idea is like if it was a rock that was like a crystal that you apply UV light to, the crystal is physical and it emits light. So in that case, you would say it's both, like it's physical and emitting light,
Okay.
versus just being a light object, like a hologram or like light interference or plasma. I mean, obviously, I can't give like some authoritative like what it is. I think the sky is a mystery to all humans, really. I know NASA and government agents claim to go up and walk on it, but that just depends on whether one wants to trust them. So I mean, I think it's kind of a mystery to all of us. Ultimately, I personally don't think
Okay.
anything's physical up there the way things are physical on Earth. And I think there's a lot like going back through humanity's history and spiritually that indicates that like the medium above us is like a different substance of sorts. That's why they called it quintessence or ether and so on. So, I mean, if I were to go from that perspective, it's like it would be the idea that there are no rocks up there at all. Like there is nothing there's not terrestrial land. Like that there's terrestrial land on the ground, obviously, on like the Earth we're on, but above us is like another substance entirely, or like they called it quintessence. So I mean, from that perspective, it would not be physical in terms of like a hard thing that you could go like get a sample or you could touch it. But if it's then that's the question of then what are they? What is it then? Is it plasma? Is it light? Is it electromagnetic? Superfluid? Is it holographic? Like some kind of light body, which is a interesting to think about. But
Well, has anything ever existed that emits light that isn't physical? If it's
um,
self-glowing,
what about like
self-illuminating.
yeah? Well, what about like fire? Do you consider fire physical? Because it's plasma, right?
But something's making it happen, like something physical, like burning wood.
It's a chemical reaction. It's completely physical. Gio, why would you say that's not physical?
Well, but it's not tangible, really. Like you can't like you can put your finger through a flame, but it's not like a thing that you could say like, oh, here's a flame, let me hand it to you. It's like a
You
phenomenon,
can put your hand in the fire if you do it really briefly,
right? But
but
that's
it's
what I'm
still
saying.
Well,
It's not.
fire doesn't exist by itself, does it? It's got to have something that it's coming from.
Well, what about like lightning? I mean, I'm just trying to give other examples of things that seem to emit light that are not necessarily tangible, like a rock,
Okay.
like a crystal that fluoresces with UV light. Yeah, that's a physical crystal, and it fluoresces light. It's both.
Yeah, but
But
it's absorbing and reflecting the light that you're supplying to it. It's not fluorescing on its own.
okay, right. Well, you're applying UV light. Is lightning physical?
Of course, it's electricity. Electricity is physical.
But you can't get a sample of lightning. You can't put lightning in a jar.
You
So it's
can't
not.
put a tornado in a jar either. So what?
So it's not. So maybe the difference between physical and tangible, like is lightning tangible?
It's just lightning is an electrical interaction at a scale that you can't fit in a bottle, but it's just on a much larger scale. But that doesn't make it. That's like saying why can't you fit the ocean in a teacup?
Well, she's asking if there's anything in life that we know about that has these kinds of features of something that could be light or emit light or have some kind of way in which light is emitting, but not necessarily be, she used the word physical. That's why I was trying to bring like tangible, like a rock, or I said, here's a rock, I can touch it, I can feel it. And I'm just saying like lightning, fire. I was just trying to give some correlations of things that are plasma or things that are like in the environment that emit light, but they may not fit the definition of physical depending on how one's defining physical.
Okay.
Yeah, your definition of physical is very strange.
Well, I was blending it to tangible. Like when we think of what the moon is in the globe model, it's like tangible. Like you could go up there and get a piece of it and bring it home.
Well, do you not think
We
the
did
ocean
that.
is tangible because you can't fit the ocean in a teacup?
No, the ocean's tangible. You can go touch it.
Okay, and
can't.
there's people that have been hit by lightning. They've literally touched lightning, right? The ones that have survived had like bad burns. They touched lightning.
I would say it's
Well,
like a physical phenomenon that involves electricity and heat and plasma and a lot of things, but I don't know that I would define it as like a physical object though. Like, oh, here's this lightning in a jar, like it's a more of a phenomenon, or like a rainbow. Is a rainbow physical? It has
Well, the
physical
problem is
interaction.
that during an eclipse, not all of the moon is self-illuminating. So
None of
wouldn't that
the moon is
suggest that
self-illuminating, is it? Or what do you
the
mean?
part that's not self-illuminating, that's glowing, wouldn't that suggest that it has to be physical because it's not glowing?
I'm not sure what you mean exactly. You mean the dark part, like the shadow part, or what's called the shadow when it's black
Yes.
before it turns red, you
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Are you indicating that that means that something is being physically blocked when it's black? Or maybe I didn't quite understand what you meant.
Well, the whole moon's not illuminated. So if it's self-illuminating, wouldn't a non-illuminating part then have to be a physical object? Because it's not electrostatics or lightning or anything like that.
Okay, well, I see what you're saying now, I think. So, but what if there was like a lens or a polarization? Have you ever seen the one where you can see a rainbow and then you take a polarization lens and you put it in front of your eye and the rainbow disappears? Like you can see everything else. You can see the clouds, you can see everything else, the landscape, but just the rainbow disappears. So with polarization, like if you have some kind of object, let's say it is whatever it is, let's say it's a light object or whatever it is, and then if you were to have a lens or something else that was intersecting with it, it would like cancel out the illumination of said object. Like the way you can do it with like you can literally have a rainbow. I have a video of it. And you put a polarized lens there, and then the rainbow just
So
disappears.
the moon we can see is not physical, and the lens that we can't see is physical. So there's another physical object up there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the lens doesn't have to be physical either necessarily. It could also be of a, in some kind of a quantum state, but maybe not bring that quantum in. But it could be like a plasma. The lens itself, I am using the word lens, and I could see why you might think, oh, do you mean like a glass lens or something that's like tangible? But I guess
Yeah.
I'm referring maybe to like a polarization process that would be intersecting with the moon or the light of the moon rather than like a physical lens that you would put like a pair of glasses or something.
I think that's a bit beyond my pay grade, but thank you.
This is the video. I just found it, and it just shows basically, I mean, it's with a camera, obviously, and then he puts the polarized lens. Like he has the polarized lens on the camera, so he's just turning it, and you see only the rainbow disappears. So like the power lines, the trees, everything else is still there. So just the rainbow disappears just from that polarization of the lens. So I mean, if there's something like that happening, where let's say in this analogy, the rainbow would be like the moon, the polarization lens would be like Rahu and Ketu or whatever's causing eclipses, and it has the ability to like cancel out the light of the moon or however that is happening, the alchemy of it. I also have this this little image I like to post because it sort of shows like a quarter and then a polarization type of lens. But I mean, yeah, like I'm not suggesting it's a physical lens up there perhaps, but it could be like whatever these celestials are made of. I mean, it's hard to know like without being like out of your body or connected to creation on some higher level. I mean, I know government agents claim they're going up there and poking around, but like I said, if you want to believe them, that's kind of its own entire thing. And then that one I
the problem
posted
is-
too, which was the polarization that can cancel the light out entirely when when that occurs.
But you're using physical objects, and you say that they probably aren't physical. So,
Well, I'm using physical representations to demonstrate the process of polarization, which I think is likely involved with what eclipses are.
right,
But
but you don't
at
know how.
some
Okay, I get it.
but at some time in the future, surely we must be able to find out, rather than just say it can't be known. No, I don't know anyone who's ever just looked at something or experienced something and just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Oh, it just can't be explained."
There's a famous
People don't generally do that.
right
They
before
generally
right before NASA landed on the moon, there was an Australian scientist at the ABC from our national broadcaster, and he gets on there and he says, "Now and this is paraphrasing, right? Now the Americans aren't going to land on the moon. The moon is made of plasma." There's heaps of other
Yeah, but that guy
theories
didn't
out
go
there.
anywhere, did he?
Well, he got disappeared apparently. I mean, what do you reckon they did? Did they just find a scientist that was a quack or something?
Has
Or
anyone else
when I went
expanded on
looking
his
for him,
idea?
well, I've tried to track him
He's-
down and I couldn't find anything. He seems to have just
But he-
almost disappeared.
But his
Who
idea
was that?
hasn't. His idea's still here.
Instead of listening to
Yeah.
that one, for me, instead of listening to that one individual say that, I listened to the 10,000 engineers that said, yeah, we landed on the moon.
Well, I mean, I guess you're asking for an example of someone who had like a different philosophy, and I just remembered that, so I thought I might point it out. But yeah, I mean, you can go along with the crowd if you think that that's superior, Cole.
I mean, Red Cloud, and also I'm not saying it can't be explained, but it's a pretty
Right.
deep mystery. I mean, it's sort of like, what is the origin of consciousness? Like, that's a deep question. You get into like God or creator territory, like, because we know we can look at the brain and there's certain things happening. And I'm not trying to shift that topic. I'm just saying, like, will we ever really know in a human body what causes what consciousness really is, or what the ultimate divine nature is, or and when you talk about the celestials, it's like almost like the other side. It's almost like life, like what is life? Is there life after death question, the celestials. I mean, I know the mainstream model claims that they've probed and that they know what the sun is and they've been to the moon and landed on it and kicked rocks around. So I get that story. They kick rocks up there. But that, I mean, okay, but let's say that they didn't do any of that. Then they're just as clueless as we are, basically, about, what I mean? Or as clued in as we are, let's say, meaning we can look at it, we can shoot radar, we can think, we can try to measure what we can, spectroscopy from the ground, but that's the whole question. Like, if no human can get up there and touch it or probe it, then we're all in the same boat, including the Illuminati reptilians or whatever's going on. We're all in the same boat, other than what we can shoot at it or think about it. But but yeah, if they've gone there and probed the sun, and if they've landed on the moon, then I guess you would say that we as humans, do know what it is. It's a rock because men went up there and walked on it. So I realize those are different perspectives, but from our perspective in here, none of us have walked on it. So I mean, can we, how can we know what the sky is? It's just an age-old question, the celestials and what they are.
You can't. You just have to have faith.
For our understanding, I think there are two types of celestial things: the ones that we can reach and the ones we can't reach. As far as people on the globe side are going to say, we can reach the sun, we can reach the moon, we can reach the planets, but beyond that, there's just no way. It'll take too long. So Voyager, that was launched when I was wee, and that has just gone outside the heliopause, right? So it's beyond our solar system. The first time that's ever happened, and there's a second one that's also done that, I think, or it's close to it. Anyway, but so it was reaching the next nearest thing that it could possibly like crash into is going to take 100,000 years or something stupid. Something stupid. I envision that in 100 years from now, that they'll invent a rocket that can go, 1,000 times faster than Voyager. They'll launch it and catch Voyager in half an hour. That's my theory. And in 200 years, they'll catch that ship in half an hour.
I guess a lot of this comes down to belief, because I mean, you haven't been able to verify outer space, obviously, neither have I. And I know there's a lot of information or data that's claimed, and not to get into a whole like, is space real or fake, or whole discussion, but I'm just saying, like, because if you think about it, like, let's say you went however many thousands of years ago when humans did not have any concept of that can go up there and that there's land there. And if a group of guys came in and said, "Oh yeah, no, we've been there. We walked on that moon thing, and we probed the sun, and we've been to Pluto, and we've probed Mars with a radio controlled car." Like, it would be pretty seemingly outlandish of those people coming and saying, "Hey, no, we landed RC cars on that thing up there, on that light up there." So because I'm just saying, like, from the position that no humans are doing any of that, then like I said, like, wouldn't you, okay, if no one's going to space, if it's all faked, essentially, and they're faking it all to us, would you then agree that the Celestials are a profound mystery? If that's the case? If the truth is that they haven't actually been there?
If the truth is they're just, making it all up, then yes, that would be true.
Okay.
But the question is, are they? And the second question is, why would they? So we can talk about both of those ideas.
I can't go to the stars, but I can see the movement of them. I can see that there's clearly two celestial poles without ever traveling to them or knowing what they are.
I agree. Like a double toroid.
We can use reason and just say, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be a physical object. You can see it. It reflects light, so it isn't a tangible or whatever reason that I would say, oh, that's not possible for that to exist. It has to be able to exist. We can see that it exists. So.
And what does a toroid look like? Is that like a dot in the middle and they come out bigger from each side? Whereas the celestial poles are complete opposite to that. They're two dots that get bigger in the middle. So I don't know how a toroid, how the stars could be a toroid.
Well, do you know like a double torus is? Like, I'm posting this in the chat real quick. This is kind of just a simple, crude. There's all kinds of other toroidal structures and things, but that's a double torus, which is, I found it kind of interesting. It looks like you have like the two 24-hour suns, the two poles. So that's sort of what I was referring to in just a very generalized sense. But there's also other double toroids, like this one type of thing, where you have the upper half, the lower half, which would be like the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. So I was just throwing that in to say that it seems to potentially match that pattern.
It doesn't really, but it's similar.
But yeah, all of these are the age-old question. Well, whatever old question, however this server's been around, age-old questions, aren't they? It's interesting to banter backwards and forwards on it, and it's good to do it without getting too heated. So again, I'd like to say thank you, Gio, for that.
Well, if it gets too heated, then we can't even have the discussion. So yeah, there's got to be somewhere in the middle. Because if it's just all heat, then we'll never get through anything.
More heat than light. I think we've got we've got people in here who are able to strike the balance. So that's good.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, like, you and I were both born into this world that claims they discovered it was a globe, and that they kind of had the celestials figured out, sort of, which is kind of interesting because, like, if you think about that the skies are a mystery, these guys came along and said, oh, no, we know what it is. It's, we've probed it. We've been up there. Granted, they didn't really do that till the 60s, like, claimed to go to outer space. So before that, it wasn't even really a thing of actually going there. It might have been a theory that we're on a ball and that there's outer space. But, I mean, what did people in 1918 or 1926 or 1905, I mean, there wasn't really an outer space to them, really. I mean, there was a theory of it, maybe like, oh, we're on a ball and there's blackness out there. Maybe there's something out there. But, it wasn't really until the 60s, which is pretty damn recent, that they said, oh, yeah, no, we've been there. It really is. It's a vacuum and you free fall and you float up there. I mean, that wasn't, think of how recent that is, the 1960s. And then we, all of us were born in the 70s, 80s. Like, this is a pretty fresh idea, in a way.
That is very true, but there are a lot of other fresh ideas. They used to think that the human body could not withstand speeds greater than the horse galloping. They used to think the human body would explode if you went faster than the speed of a galloping horse. That's what they used to
Really?
think. Yeah.
You would just combust.
Now that seems silly.
They used to also think, harkening back to our early conversation, they used to also think that if you gave women too much knowledge, that they would go mad, or they would just pass out.
What if
Yeah, we were already
what if
mad,
this-
so that
what if these
That's-
are just stories of the now that we tell about, like, how crazy we were in the past, and that's just to
Yeah.
emphasize that we must be in the correct now. That's how manipulation is done. Yeah.
Well, we see, from what I have come to understand, just think about how you were when you were 10 years old. Or just not you, let's just say me. I was a freaking moron when I was 10 years old. I wasn't much better at 20. I sort of got a handle at 30. And so I look back each decade and think, what a moron. So, you know what I mean? So if you do that with humanity,
Right.
you just think that in 1950, they must have thought that people in 1900 didn't know anything. In 2000, they think that people in 1950 didn't know anything. So imagine
Yeah,
in
but this is
2050,
just our
they can look at
this is
us and think we're all monkeys.
This is just our hubris, and yet we could be just basically getting stupider and stupider through, like, what do you call it? I mean, the frontier of the AI generation of content, we're basically cooked. This thing that has been telling us the truth, at least we believe has been telling us the truth, the TV and the screen as the ultimate source of that, as a condensed, well-resourced sort of explanation of how society is running. I mean, what, you think that was all true in the past? I mean, this is just sort of rose-tinted glasses in my interpretation. We actually might be getting stupider, and they're just manipulating the what do you call it? The IQ tests, and
You may not be
like,
wrong.
they're doing it through, like, collective intelligence by connecting us all together with these computers, which now the computers just think for us. So, I mean, what did I say? Like,
Well, you know
Yeah.
when that started? You know when that started?
well-
That started
well-
when they started allowing calculators to be used in schools. And I'm not joking. I am not joking. That's when it
Because
started.
if we're depending on electronics more. Well, I just want to say
Yeah.
two things quickly. One thing is, like, I just looked up. It claims that in the early 1800s, a guy named Dr. Dionysius Lardner believed that speeds exceeding 30 miles an hour on trains would cause health crises such as suffocation or blindness. So I don't know if it's fair to say. I don't know if you did say, like, everyone used to think that. It might have just been like this guy or a few thought that idea. So I don't know if that's really valid to be like, oh, well, he thought something so ridiculous that if you go over 30, you're going to explode. To necessarily say that they all thought that. It sounds like it's maybe this guy, at least to what this search is showing me. It's hard to know
Yeah.
whether very many thought that or whether just they did.
That's a good point.
Then,
I'm recounting what I remember is when I was younger. I remember someone that said, "Oh, people in the past, this is what they thought," and that could be completely fallacious information.
Well, this says a popular English science writer, Dr. Dionysius Lardner, in the 1920s and 30s. He wrote he wrote that humans would find it difficult to breathe at speeds, etc. But the other thing I was just going to say,
that's probably where I got it from.
I mean, like, have we devolved or have we evolved? Like, this is just a general statement, but I think, like, if you took a shaman from thousands of years ago and showed them the modern day, I mean, I just think they would be, like, shaking their head, like, oh my, what, in a way. Now, that's just my, like, characterization of it. And I'm not trying to say, that they would be disparaging or judgmental. I'm just saying that they would maybe even see us as, I'm just saying an argument could be made that we've actually degraded profoundly and that we're way off track. I mean, the poison in our foods, like, what, you go to a grocery store, a mainstream grocery store, even a good one, even a Whole Foods if you want, a organic one, or a regular one of just the mainstream grocery stores, literally 95 or more % of the food is literally poisonous to the human biology. It's unbelievable. The only thing that might be not that is, like, an organic apple, and even that organic apple probably has toxins in it. It's unbelievable. Like, almost every food is biologically incompatible with the human. So you could say that's, like, the most insane devolving, and there's a lot of other ways we could say too. And then how that plays into, like, the globe and the outer space, I mean, that's a question too. But, like, are we advanced or are we the opposite of? Or a mixture in between?
That's a great question. I remember there was a sci-fi movie I watched from the 1950s or 60s, and they used to use the word atomic a lot, okay, because it was just a buzzword they used to use. Okay,
They were trying to push the atomic science, the atomic structure. But yeah, go ahead.
right. So there was a scene in the movie where this guy's explaining the nucleus of atoms or something, a nucleus of something, and one of the characters in the movie says, "Oh, what's that?" Well, Sally, the nucleus is, and explains. Well, people now, he explained. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he explained the most rudimentary scientific idea that I think I'd ever heard, and he's explaining it like it's a new thing. But we know about this. It's like now people being a photographer, I'm a photographer, and so you talk to people, say 15 years ago about ISO and shutter speed and focal length, and you get blank stares. But now people know these terms. People have learned, and they know stuff. So loads of people I talk to about photography, they go, "Oh, yeah, I understand what that means." But used to be able to explain it like they were toddlers.
Yeah, I would never say that our current age is like completely devolving, because obviously there are things that it seems like in our lifetimes have advanced profoundly. Dude, I've got this Galaxy Fold 7 is the phone I have, so it's like the Galaxy folding phone. It's amazing, dude. This thing, like, you can have it closed, and it's like a regular phone. It's very thin now, so it's like a big, nice regular phone. And then you open it up, and it folds into like a 7-inch screen. It's absolutely like amazing. So I can't say that like things are not better now, in a lot of ways. Computers are amazing, but anyways, it's a big topic. I mean, I hear what you're saying there. Yeah, how things have changed in science, and like back then they were like, atomic as if it was some big deal, whereas now, there's a But the other one, I tell you, Geo. If there's deception, then we could be in a devolved state, the things that are deceived. But if there's things that are legitimate, that's advancing. Like, I mean, obviously this phone is a real thing. I'm using it, and it's very useful or whatever. So yeah.
I'm worried about the future. I'm not completely despondent about it. But the other thing I was going to say about the food, have you seen what Kennedy's done with Maha, right? So make America healthy again. They're going to label food not fit for human consumption. Have you seen that? It's absolutely brilliant, because a lot of these substances and stuff, they listed about 30 of them. All of these chemicals are in the food that the EU and other countries have banned because they're toxic, and they're listing them. And anything with those foods in them, if they're not labeled, because a lot of them are not labeled, like Skittles and Doritos and all these other things.
But hold on for a second, dude. What does Da Vinci think of this stuff?
Oh man, I just jumped in. All I heard were Skittles. I don't know what y'all been talking about.
Well, that's what. I mean, dude, from the theory that we're a reset culture, that's because like, what if actually we're not? Okay, what if we are a reset culture, and the entities or whoever that reset us, that maybe we were even more advanced before the reset, but they took all of the advancements for themselves, took a lot of the technology and hid it from us, and then reset us to buggy, horse and buggy, and then slowly rolled out these quote unquote inventions, but they've already had computer chips and they've already had things. That's a whole wild one, because you could say that we really haven't actually advanced. We're just being like re-rolled out the technology that was already there in a way that makes us seem like we're advancing. Anyways, I know that's kind of a whole separate component, but
I tell you what,
it sheds a different light on it as the potentials.
Sure, I get you. I tell you what, though, there was a guru that that we sort of followed a little while ago, say about 10 years ago. I've forgotten his name now. Gosh, he wrote a book, and we got the book. I don't even know where it is. One of the things he said, though, he was just a fly-by-night guru type of guy. One of the things he said is about his health. He brought a juicer with him when he went on the road doing his tours and teaching his thing, right? He didn't eat regular food. He ate only organic, it was juiced and all the rest of it. One of the things he said was this. He said, never buy food produced by a publicly held company. The reason is, as soon as it becomes publicly held, they care more about the profits and their shareholders and stakeholders than they do about the quality of the food, and they will cut any corner. If it shaves off 20% of the price of the cost of making the food, they will cut that corner. They'll add that additive, put in that chemical in order to save that 20%. So that's what his principle was, and I think I just remembered it just right now. It's like, oh yeah, that guy said that. So, but anyway, if there is reset, I don't know. It would have to, like you said, it would have to be a constant. They'd have to be constantly resetting. And I don't know if that's true, but what is happening is that you've got finally someone in government who actually gives a blank, and he's doing something about all the stuff. If you go to Japan, and here's the thing about the reset and everything. If there was a reset on food and they were trying to poison us, they would be poisoning people in Japan. But if you go to Japan, school children make their own dinners when they go to school, and none of the food is prepared beforehand. It's all made at school. They're not allowed to bring their own food. They bring the food, and it's all fresh food. So it's vegetables and it's fish and it's all sorts of things. There was an American that went there and he was finding out about this amazing thing in Japan where the kids eat healthy. And he asked 3 children, he said, what is your favorite food? One of the children said broccoli. One of the children said white rice. And the other child said something I can't remember. And he said to the interpreter, are they pranking me? Are they saying stupid things like that because they think I'm gullible and they're just going to...
And there's no outside edge where there's nothingness. They meet each other.
I'm sorry, Gio, I've got to do this. I just had some cucumber and my body is now...
There's not 2 circles side by side where there's like Pac-Man in the middle.
Well, yeah, it's more, I hear you on that. It's more like,
It's like being inside a sphere, which is why they called it the celestial sphere, I'm guessing.
well, yeah, but like I've always posted this, like that vertical wall on that thing I just posted is like that stereographic projection of spherical coordinates, and that the thing on the wall is more closely related, because I know what you mean. It's not just 2 circles. It's like it blends in between. Then you have like the equator and all the field lines and stuff. I mean, it is the way like an electric field structure is.
It doesn't match what we see, though.
Like, I'm not saying it's exact, but like that right there, the electric field on the left, and then the ferrocell. I mean, I could go find star pictures that look pretty similar to the one on the right there. You know, so I mean, I'm not saying it's like exact, but it does seem to match to a degree, like the electric field pattern and the way the sky moves.
If you were to flatten it down and make it flat, yeah. But it's not. It's like 2 hemispheres.
This one's kind of cool, which I think is like something from Poincaré, but yeah,
It is, but again, we don't see the stars moving in ovals.
well, I mean, they kind of warp at the equator. Like we see, I mean, that image there shows, yeah, they maybe are a little bit ovular even at the center there, but it's like we do see circles, like pretty concentric circles, but when it gets close to the equator, it like, I hear you that it's maybe not ovals, but it does like kind of warp in a way.
But we know that they don't separate and get closer together.
Well, like this image I just posted, which kind of shows that geometry.
Yeah, because you're putting a ball on a flat piece of paper, so it's out of perspective. Out of perspective.
It does like kind of warp in a way.
But we know that they don't separate and get closer together.
Well, like this image I just posted, which kind of shows that geometry.
Yeah, because you're putting a ball on a flat piece of paper, so it's out of perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if the sky is like spherical coordinates, like when they call it the celestial sphere, like the way like a planetarium is like a hemisphere and it has like a hemispherical shaped structure, but the coordinates of that hemisphere are like the GPs and everything are mapped over like the flat floor of the planetarium. Like let's say just in that idea where you have like a flat floor and then a hemisphere. So yeah, I mean, it could be that the sky does have like a spherical nature to how it moves and what it is, and then those coordinates are like transferred down to
in
a
those
plane.
planetariums with the hemisphere, the southern stars, if you've got them around the bottom of that sphere, that hemisphere, that doesn't represent what we see.
I mean, it's kind of close to what we see, and it's just generally the one thing that I think I liked from Jaron is that he used to say was some grid of vision, And I remember just thinking, you know what? He's actually quite right. When you walk outside, it looks like a dome over your head. You just see this 360 pattern, the sky, and you can't see any further, and it just looks like a circle. And it looks like it does look like a dome. I can understand why people get that viewpoint. Oh, azimuthal grid of vision. That's what he used to say.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is pretty
that's
much
what
what we
planetariums-
observe. Like, yeah, because if you have an azimuth, like from your feet, if you drew a line on the ground from your feet to the horizon, and then you went clockwise a whole circle around you, that's an azimuthal grid. That's a circle, and then
But if you were in the air, would you not be able to
Right.
do a 360 view of a ball? Because you're in the air, you don't have the horizon to cut it in half.
Wait, are you saying if you were on a ball that you went to outer space and there wouldn't be the ground, there wouldn't be an azimuthal, there would just be stars all around you if you were in space?
Just go up in a balloon, a hot air balloon, or an aeroplane. Now I can see below me. I can see the land right underneath me. I can look up to the horizon, and then I can look up and see the sky.
But it's still kind of an azimuthal grid. Like even if you were in a balloon, however many thousand feet up,
Really?
there's still a line from your eye to the horizon, 360 around you. It's just that you're above.
Yeah, but then I can see the land underneath that horizon, which isn't flat. Like,
ramping up. You mean ramping up from like under your feet to the horizon? Well, yeah, that's just the
no,
circle.
not including the horizon, including the ground. See, when you do the dome, the land looks flat across, and then there's a dome over our head. But if you get in the air, you can do a 360 ball, down and around, and
Yeah, you could make a 360 grid from like 1,000 feet up down to the ground. I hear you, but there's still like the ground layer that is still like an azimuthal grid. You're just above it. You're just 1,000, 2,000 feet above it. But I know what you mean. Yeah, you do have more. Well, if you're 6 feet above the ground, then I guess you have 6 feet down to the ground. If you're 1,000 or 2,000, you have a couple thousand. But I mean, there's still kind of that grid. I mean, that's how stellarium works. Even though stellarium will kind of graphically show the stars going under the ball or whatever, but the thing is, like, stellarium essentially shows an azimuthal grid with the stars. Like that's why you can put the stellarium data onto that like Walter Bislin thing where you threw it on the AE map, and you can map that just because you're taking that little hemisphere of stars and then just plotting it. But because that's what we see essentially is a circle of land that we're on. Whether there's 8 inches a mile curvature or not is its own question. But like a planetarium, that's why a planetarium can represent what we see on Earth.
If you use the stars in the south, then you'd have to have 2 planetariums, 2 domes. Because otherwise, like imagine a planetarium that you're talking about with Sigma Octantis in the middle. Where's Polaris now? Because that's what I see from the south. I don't see Polaris.
I hear you. My thoughts on it is that there seem to be like 2 entire sections. Like you have the northern stars in rotation, you have the southern stars in rotation. Obviously, they're respective to their, north or south of the equator. And that in combination seems to make like if we want to call it 2 hemispheres, as it were, whether we think those are like surrounding a ball Earth or whether those are just 2 hemispheres above a flat Earth, because there's like 2 poles, and you could call those like 2 kind of hemispherical things. But then you have your local vision within that 2-pole system, your local thing. So you might see at the equator, you see 50-50, you might see a part of it, whatever part of it you see. So that's kind of how I think of it. Like you have your azimuthal, if I was to call it that, azimuthal grid of vision, let's say you have that, but that is like subset within the larger system of the 2 massive poles. So it's like a hemisphere within a larger celestial 2 poles type of system.
2 hemispheres.
Yeah. Which is why, like, I mean, you can, like on a planetarium, you could pull up, even though you just have one hemispherical dome in your planetarium, you could pull up like the stars for any latitude, longitude, north or south. You could pull them up and they're going to look a little different or
but
whatever.
If I had Sigma Octantis in the middle, then Polaris would be on the bottom of the dome, and you will be going, no, that's not right. All the stars go around Polaris, or at least the northern stars. So once you went halfway, it just wouldn't represent the other half of people see.
Yeah, but like if you had like a Home Depot or a Costco or a Walmart, whatever store, a huge kind of box store, let's say it was like the size of Australia or the size of the United States, like that's how big the store was. It is conceivable to me that let's say you had literally a store that big. It was the size of the whole country. And on like east of the Mississippi in America, you had one whole rotation. And then west of the Mississippi, you had one whole rotation. And if the proportions with the height of the ceiling were right or whatever, you could be in California and you would only see that one rotation. Like you wouldn't see what people see in New York, you know. But then if you went, so I'm just saying, I'm not trying to debate you on it. I'm just saying that's kind of, I think of it. I don't think it's impossible to have like different rotational points, and then you're only seeing a portion of it. It doesn't mean the other one has to be beneath your feet. It could just be across the plane, too far away to be able to observe. Like out of your range of vision kind of thing.
Well, yeah, because you can't put a sphere in a hemisphere and have it all exact. Just wouldn't work.
Well, but you could take, do you agree that you could take, okay, let's say you had a graphical celestial sphere, like you had a computer, you have literally a sphere and all the stars are represented on it. All of them, northern, southern, just like the globe model says, right? You have that in your computer system. It's right there. You see it, 3D, all that. Then you plug that into your planetarium, which is only a hemisphere, and you start pulling up coordinates. It's only going to show you one portion of it on your hemisphere. Like you're either going to see the northern part or the southern one or the equator, even though it's all on a planetarium without anything going under your feet.
Yeah, that's why you need two hemispheres to represent what everybody sees in reality, I think.
But I'm saying you could take that 3D like star sphere, and then if you plug into the hemisphere, like either north or south, you're just going to get that representation, which would be the idea of like, if you're plugging it into the system, that would be the same as like having a limit of vision on a large planar Earth where you're only seeing that portion of it. That's all I'm saying. And then you could have like two planetariums next to each other, and one of them shows the southern stars, one of them shows the northern, but there's no globe. It's just a flat ground, you know. So I mean, you could represent the northern rotation and the southern rotation with two planetariums and no curvature involved. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but then if it was the poor old buggers on the equator, they'd be like, hang on, I had to go in two different planetariums to see the stars above my head.
Well, you could even, I'm not saying that you should like concede that it's a planar Earth or anything. I'm just saying like just logically, at least some of this. Well, you have three planetariums. One of them that shows the southern stars, that's what's on the planetarium. One of them that shows the equatorial in the middle, and then another one that shows the northern. And all of those planetariums could be on like leveled, flat ground. I'm not saying it proves it's what it is. I'm just saying that geometrically, it is physically possible, as it were, to have everything over a plane. Like how the sky is working, that was a whole other question, and how do the two poles work? And I mean, I still have a lot of those questions myself, so I'm not claiming I have all the answers. Because I mean, since time immemorial, when people didn't think it was a globe, they mapped the stars like I'm describing, like the planetarium type idea. And they
But wouldn't that be
think it was
a time when they hadn't been to the south? Like since we've been to the south, so I would just say that they didn't know a lot back then because they just hadn't traveled that far or weren't communicating with the people in the south.
I mean, that is possible, but you only have to go, like you can start to see the southern rotation and the equatorial phenomenon just getting, within, I think even, hasn't Brian Leakey said that from Florida, he was able to see a part, like you're able to see a part of the southern, not only him has said that, but I think he has and others have too, that like from Florida, you can see part of the southern rotation. So
yeah, I can see part of the northern one, but not a lot of it.
Oh, interesting. But you can just see a little bit of it.
Well, I'm near the Tropic of Capricorn.
Right, and Florida is like north of the Tropic of Cancer, but it's
the planets kind of go over my head. I kind of feel like I'm close to the equator, even though apparently I'm not. But so I can see quite a bit of your rotation. I just can't get down near the center part of it. But...
Right. Yeah, same in the north. Like, because the Tropic of Cancer goes through like the Bahamas and like the Caribbean. So Florida's obviously just north of that. So yeah, 26, 7, 8 degrees kind of thing. So like just north of it. So, well, I'm just saying, it seems like I guess if they were really far north, maybe they would not know about the southern rotation. Like if you're whatever degree that's not visible anymore, whether that's 30 or whatever degree it is, where you absolutely can't see any of the other rotation, then I do hear you that maybe some people would not have known it was there. But
that's why I think the people that knew about, that could see parts of both the skies, would know that the sky makes a sphere. And geometrically, the only way that works is on a globe. So I think a lot of them would have assumed it was a globe, even though they didn't have the proof that some might think they needed.
well, if that's the case, though, then why have, as far as our history seems to be, that humans always had a flat Earth until the globe idea came along? Like, why wouldn't it have been that it would have just been a globe from the beginning if that was so kind of, if it was so apparent as you're saying?
I would just say uneducated. My great grandfather that came to Australia thought he was going to sail off the edge of the earth because he thought it was flat. But on the other side of my family, that grandfather, great grandfather, he knew it was a globe. So I just think they just didn't know. One of them was a farmer, and the other one was obviously in the city.
Well, I'm just
Different
saying, like, I hear
education.
you on like more recent times, like the way that blend has happened. I hear you on that. But like, if we go back, whatever it was, like 500 years ago, 800, 1500, 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000, if we start going back like that, I mean, that's a lot of years, when you think like we've been alive for 30, 40 years and it feels like a long time, but that's like hundreds, thousands of years. But I'm saying through all that time, all those people wouldn't have like, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with you that the two rotations mean it has to be a sphere. But if that's the argument you're making, all those humans in all that time were just unable to come to that, or is that what you're saying? They were all just clueless for thousands of years?
Well, I know what the Southern Cross is doing. Everybody in the South Seas are going sideways, upside down, the right. But I have no idea what's happening in the North. I've never heard of the Big Dipper. We don't call Orion's belt Orion. We call it the saucepan because that's the picture it makes here as a saucepan. And the stars either side of it aren't really relevant. But unless you spend a lot of time looking, I
Yeah,
didn't
but
even
what
know
about
half
like,
the things that were going on in the sky
but then
until I
there's
got a
all the,
P900 camera. Sorry.
but then there's like all the people at the equatorial region too, which is the warmest, and you would think a lot of humans would want to be there because it's nice and summery and you don't have winter and unbearable conditions. If you go up even to 30, 35 degrees, you get unbearable winters. And in ancient times, if you didn't have electricity and all that, I mean, even now it's hard to live. You got to shovel snow and, power goes out and all that stuff. It's, so humans would have lived near the equator, and you see the two rotations from anywhere near the equatorial region, like anywhere between the tropics, you see both of them, two rotations.
It depends on how much time you spent looking at the sky, I guess. I don't know.
But I mean, don't you agree? There's ancient. I mean, all the astronomy, astrology, astronomy and astrology used to be one combined kind of inquiry. I mean, I guess this goes into like history and what
Well,
happened in the past. But I mean, I'm just
how long
saying,
ago did the ancients name it the celestial sphere? Was that like 5,000 years ago? 2,000? 10,000? I don't know.
yeah, that phrase, it's kind of hard to know because like if there were different languages and where that phrase really comes from and did they use that exact word sphere? It's hard to
But just
say.
because they knew the sky was a sphere doesn't mean they knew what shape the land was, like you say.
Yeah.
In their mind, it could have been both flat and a round sky, spherical sky. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that is kind of what I think it seems like. Well, because they have all these hemispherical dome kind of like the layers of the heavens that are a hemisphere structure and stuff. So it does seem like there is history of like thinking that the sky had some kind of spherical nature, but the ground being planar. I guess I'm just saying like your argument is that the sky, you think the sky is so kind of, to word it this way, like obviously a sphere, just to try to steelman what you're saying, that any human with any rational sense, by just looking at it, would instantly be like, okay, the sky is a sphere, therefore we have to be on a sphere. Is that what you're suggesting? That it's that kind of obvious just from
Because
looking at it?
that geometric, it's the only thing that works geometrically. So if you knew a little bit about geometry,
I feel like
I
kind of
think
the opposite was said, no, Gio, that education is what made it obvious, not that it was intuitive.
Well, I was trying to steel
don't
man
know.
more what she was saying, like understand what she was saying.
It's intuitive for some
Yeah, I thought if
people.
I
So
saw two rotation points and a celestial equator, I'd go the sky's round. How can a flat Earth fit under that? I can't have two hemispheres over a flat plane unless they're side by side. I guess they could have thought that.
it wasn't. It was sort of intuitive to some people. The Greeks, for example, they thought it was intuitive. Some of them did. Most people just used the basic observations, and then they come up with theories and ideas of what made the sun move and all the rest of it. They
No, I hear
thought the
you, but
sun went through a tunnel or a chariot. It was a chariot that was carried across the sky. They didn't know. How
yeah,
would they
no,
know?
there does seem to be a lot of like mythological conceptions and ideas and symbols and things about what the sky is in ancient times. But I guess what like the thing is, even the way we're told about how the globe came about, that we're on a sphere, even the historical story, like we're not really told a story like, oh well, humans just finally started thinking like, oh wow, there's two rotations, we must be on a sphere. That's not really the history we're told. We're told that Pythagoras saw boats over the horizon and Eratosthenes sticks in ground, and you know what I mean. Like we're told a story that has to do more with like yeah, basically sticks in the ground and seeing boats obscure on the ocean and then thinking they quote unquote they must be going over a ball, and then other things like the Alberuni. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't the two rotations. Like we're not told that humans were going around quote unquote dumb on a flat Earth and then or clueless or whatever, and then all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, there's two rotations. We must be on a sphere. That's just not what we're told. Is how it came about. We're told boats over the curve and sticks in the ground, and
But you're saying two things though. You're saying on the one hand, it's not immediately obvious, but on the other hand, you can see sticks in the ground and boats going over the curve. So it is obvious because some people thought it was a globe because they saw the sticks in the ground, boats going over the curve. So yes, it is. If you look at it, if you don't look at it, and you just
that's a slightly separate discussion of whether those things are valid. That it's a sphere. What I'm saying is that Trouble About seems to be saying an idea that the two rotations imply a sphere, in a way that's like, oh, it must be a sphere with any like rational, logical, like unless you're just like mentally disabled or something. That like I'm saying like any rational person, would just know it's a sphere. And all I'm saying is that, but that's not the story. Like we're not told the story that all of a sudden, you know what I mean?
Weren't the two sticks in the ground used to prove the size of the Earth? Not that there was a sphere. They already knew that.
The circumference they claim, but I mean the curvature
Yeah,
and size.
so
Yeah.
they already knew it wasn't there to prove the Earth was a globe. They already knew that. They wanted to know how big it was.
Well, yeah, that's true. Eratosthenes came later than the boats over the curve guys. But even I mean the boats over the curve guys were way before, and that's like all they had. They're like, oh, these boats are going over for apparently hundreds of years until Eratosthenes came along and said, wait a minute. But my only point is that all I'm saying, Trouble, is that if you're saying that the two rotations imply a sphere, so obviously, quote unquote, it just, I mean, I don't necessarily agree, but if that was the case, why wouldn't the story of discovering in a globe, why wouldn't it involve that? Well, why wouldn't we be told like, oh, humans were going around and there were these two rotations and they just thought they were on a flat Earth for thousands of years, but then all of a sudden they just looked up and said, you know what, there's two rotations, we must be on a sphere. If it's that obvious that the two rotations imply a sphere, that's what I'm asking.
I don't know.
Yeah, I want to.
The problem is you've got the propagation of information. So you'll have some travelers that go to the southern hemisphere that are from the northern hemisphere, and they would go to the southern hemisphere and see that the stars are moving the opposite way, and they would get back and not even think to mention it because they either died and then they maybe tell some people, and the information wouldn't get propagated very far. So that was one. The other thing is that Foucault, when he did his experiment, he wasn't trying to prove that the Earth was rotating. He was trying to, well, I think actually he was, I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but no one doubted that the Earth was a sphere, I don't think. I think what he was doing was he was trying to show that the Earth was actually rotating. And that's why he came up with the idea. If everyone at that time thought that the Earth was stationary, I don't see any reason why they would have done an experiment to detect the rotation of the Earth. So
The point
they sort of figured it out at that time.
I guess, well, I'll let
Whatever
Andrew
that was.
go. I know I've been talking a lot. I'll pull back a little bit because other people want to get into, and I've been talking a lot today. But I'll just say, yeah, but okay, when we're talking about the ancients, it's like, what are we talking about 5,000 years ago, 4,000, 3,000? But then we're told that there's around this 2,000 to 2,500 year period where the first indications of them thinking we're on a globe were XYZ, and then the unfolding from there. So that's a big question. Like, when did people go from flat to globe? And then, what is the real history of it? But I was just saying that my point was just that I don't think the two rotations instantly imply a sphere. That, like, that's not how is even the history we're told as to how humans discovered a sphere was not necessarily the two rotations.
My
And I
theory
think
is
knowledge
simple.
came and went as civilizations rose and fall. Oh,
My theory
so the
is
Incas
that
might have known it was a sphere, but then they all died. So who were they going to tell?
Yeah.
They're dead.
my theory is that the propagation of information was very limited. So even if you had someone who went from the north to the south, they would get back and maybe they'd tell a few people, but it wouldn't get the ear of someone who was scientific who could draw conclusions. Finally, that happened, but it took a long time. And
These
then
are
when they figured it out.
Let's let Anchovy go.
That's to my point of it being intuitive, right? You're saying, well, some people did find it intuitive. I disagree. They had to be rather scholarly, right? And have those ideas shared amongst themselves before anybody could ever just think of that on their own.
Well, I disagree because I thought the Earth was flat, and then I got a P900, filmed the stars not rotating around Polaris, which is what would make sense if you're on a dome and you're in the south. The stars should be going horizontally across the sky. There shouldn't be a second rotation point. So as soon as I saw that, I knew flat Earth was in trouble.
Yeah, but you're saying that with the knowledge
me.
that you already went through a system that told you were on a globe.
Well, no, I'd had strokes, so I pretty much forgot everything, and what I relearned was flat Earth stuff. I wouldn't even look at the globe stuff. I just wanted to learn about flat Earth. Although
So
you're
you're
right, I
saying,
did know that some thought I did know some people thought it was a globe. So you are right.
well, yeah, because you're saying if I look up and see lights in the sky doing a certain thing, that tells me the shape on the ground that I walk on, with me
Yes.
having relatively good balance, is a ball.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't say it was
I
spinning and
don't think
flying through
that's the case.
space. Just that I could see two rotations, and geometrically, I don't know how else you could come to any other conclusion.
If you think about it, yes, it does. It does exactly that. The
You're
other
saying
thing it does,
absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. You'd agree with that, right?
no,
Well, that makes no sense. I've got evidence of two celestial poles of the celestial equator.
We're not lacking evidence.
Don't have a lack of evidence.
Would you agree that
No.
absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, though?
No, because we don't lack evidence. It's not like we have a lack of evidence of the globe.
It's not what I asked. I think this is why I don't ask you guys questions.
Oh, please ask again in a way that I can understand.
planetarium.
Maybe I can answer it.
I mean, it's a very simple question.
Okay,
right?
please answer it again. Ask it again.
For a third time. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Do you agree?
I understand it now. Can you please apply it to what we were just talking about?
Do you agree for the fourth time? This is why I don't ask you guys questions.
So you think having no evidence of a northern rotation means that with my evidence of a southern rotation, I should assume it's a dome with Sigma Octantis in the middle? Is that what you're suggesting? Because the northern hemisphere is absent and I can't see it, so...
It's a logical heuristic claim, which was
But we don't have a lack of evidence. I've got the celestial equator.
Applying it to you.
So then you would say yes to the question.
It doesn't apply to us, though.
Well, it does if you phrase it as...
You didn't have breakfast this morning. Oh, I had breakfast this morning.
What does it apply? Maybe I'm lost in what was it applied to, the absence of evidence thing about?
Well, yeah, she said that I looked at the sky and saw the stars not rotating around Polaris, and I couldn't find another explanation for that other than a globe. So that, by definition, is absence of evidence.
Another explanation that makes sense, that matches what we see.
That's still absence of evidence. You don't have to interrupt me, even though you're agreeing with me. That would still be absence of evidence for the thing that you're looking for. You said, I couldn't find evidence for the other explanation that makes sense to you. So that still is absence of evidence. So it does apply to you. And that's why you were probably tactically avoiding answering the question that I had to ask 6 times. Body.
Are you saying how it relates to what she's saying, that evidence of absence, or sorry, absence of evidence of how that could work on a planar Earth, and therefore resorting to globe is invalid?
Yeah, it's affirming the consequent, but also it's like Carl Sagan proposed it. So just because you lack proof of a claim, it doesn't automatically prove that the claim is false. Just because you lack proof that it would work on a flat Earth doesn't mean that it automatically is proof that it is not a flat Earth, which is the position, flat Earth doesn't work because Australia sky is taking.
It's also the position you'd have to take as an ancient scholar who didn't know the Earth was round yet.
But I just want to highlight just like how bad faith it is if someone asks you a simple question to go like 5 different answers that aren't yes or no. Because like you don't want to progress the conversation, like you're afraid of some gotcha
like
or
the
something.
absence of evidence of proof that there's a God doesn't mean that there isn't one. I get you. I've had that argument with someone before and lost.
That's a non
understand what
sequitur.
you're saying.
That was a good.
Well, I
That
didn't.
was a real good attempt.
Yeah, so
Good
both
work.
you got bodied. The LeBron debate stays undefeated. It's crazy.
But it's
I'm in bed, I'm
irrelevant. It's
half
irrelevant to the
asleep.
conversation. It doesn't mean anything. I said it doesn't work on a flat Earth geometrically.
Well,
And
Trouble,
if you
let's
want to
go
give
with that.
evidence
So,
that shows that it does work on a flat Earth geometrically, go.
well, okay,
That's
let me ask.
appeal to ignorance. So now you're saying just because I lack
Fine.
an explanation you that's compelling to you, all of a sudden you know that it's not the case. That's appeal to ignorance. Do you have any arguments that aren't
That is-
logically fallacious,
It means
informally
nothing.
or formally?
Do you have anything to say that isn't basically an insult?
I didn't insult anybody.
You're calling everyone bad faith. You're saying we're arguing from ignorance. Do you have anything that is not an insult?
So
Meta.
definitionally, if all the arguments you're presenting are fallacious, and if you avoid a question 6 times to avoid a conclusion to force a non-conclusion, that is by definition bad faith. That's not me
It's just,
insulting.
this is
I
Nathan
think
Oakley.
you're arguing from bad faith.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not. I'm just trying to
Well-
ask for an argument that isn't fallacious and not avoid simple questions like to agree absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You
Nick.
did 6 times.
Galley, let me ask you a question. Do you
Oh man,
believe
now we
the
gotta
Earth?
get another cheerleader in to try to save the day.
No, it landed. There's
We
there's
don't
no
need
recovering
saving.
that one.
Trust
It
me,
landed.
bud. We don't need saving.
All right, well, let me
No.
hold on.
Oh,
Can we?
these debate
Thank
bro
you.
tactics are
Jake.
so lame.
Jake,
no.
if you wanna ask a question, can I just, before we do that though, Trouble, can I just ask like real quick, why can't you have 2 rotations of stars on a planar surface? Like, what about it? Well, let me just finish the question real quick before you answer, and then I'll pass the mic. But like, I guess the one part, like, what geometrically about it makes it impossible on a planar surface? And then secondly, like if you did the thing like you took 3 planetariums, one of them shows the northern stars, one of them shows the equatorial, one of them shows the southern, you could put those all on a flat ground, and yes, they're hemispherical domes, obviously, to represent that, but the ground is flat. So geometrically, I think you can map all the stars with the 2 poles to the ground. But in what way do you think that you can't have 2 poles on a planar
It
surface?
doesn't match what we see.
What makes it
You
exclusively impossible?
You can have 2 poles, but it doesn't match what we see.
Well, but like you could have the hemisphere, like the 3
Because there's no
planetarium.
separation zone along the celestial equator. They all go around perfectly. They don't separate. It's not like 2 eggs sitting next to each other, only touching on one point. Or squashed where they go oval shaped. It just doesn't match what we see. Right?
Okay, so you're
This is
approaching
the classic though.
shape
This
of
is
the
affirming the consequent though.
Oh,
This
it
is
is, yes.
if the
I'm claiming
Earth.
something from something I see.
Okay.
Wow. How
Wait,
awful.
wait.
Yes, this is affirming the consequent. If the Earth is a globe, then observers in opposite hemispheres will see opposite stellar rotation around different celestial poles. We observe opposite stellar rotation, therefore Earth is a globe. That's
Well,
affirming the consequent.
we don't
Very
see it
good.
doing what it should do on a dome, do we?
Well,
So
she's
you're
trying to give a
trying to-
reason as to
That's
why it's
just a non
impossible.
sequitur that doesn't address what I
Oh
said.
my god, this Nathan Oakley crap is tiring.
I hate Nathan Oakley. And also, just because your argument sucks, your argument's affirming the consequent, which is a
No,
formal
it doesn't.
logical
My argument
fallacy.
blows you out of the water and you have nothing to repel for it except, affirming the consequence.
Okay,
Galley.
do
I
you
mean,
know what
Galley, if
affirming
that's
the
your
Galley.
consequent is and
Evidence
why
that
that's a
proves
logical
your point
fallacy?
of view.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
if
why
that's
Give
your
you
all
evidence
globe
that points
proofs
out
are affirming the consequent because
my
none of you
point of
do
view.
any
You've got
work.
nothing for yours.
If
God,
P,
you're
then Q,
boring.
Q, therefore P.
Okay, well, Galley's going the direction of like the
That
logical
is so
argument.
Nathan Oakley. If you don't like Nathan Oakley, don't repeat his crap.
I'm not repeating his crap. I've never watched Nathan Oakley.
You are.
No,
You've
how
got
can
it
I
from somewhere
repeat
which
someone that I've never watched?
It's just an overlap. People come to similar conclusions. It doesn't mean, the source has to be or the arbiter must
And
All right,
be.
also,
hold on,
that's
Rex.
always been my position, is that all so-called globes, so-called proofs are affirming the consequent or circular
Well, please
reasoning.
explain to me how you can have two rotations over a dome that matches what we see.
Sure, if you address my
Unusual.
point about how that argument's affirming the consequent, I will.
Did you want to? Because I mean, Galley's going a slightly different direction of like the logical soundness of the argument. I guess I was more going the direction of trying to understand where Trouble About was coming from as to what makes it impossible. Either way, whatever direction we want to go, but Trouble. I mean, just you're saying the angles of the stars at the equatorial region, the way they blend at the equator. That's the reason you're saying it can't be over a plane.
Because they don't separate and rejoin again. There's no two rotations side by side. Because a circle
Okay.
can only touch on one point. Don't you agree?
Okay, I get what you're. Okay,
And
so now I'm understanding. Like, if we look at all those like electric field dual pole things, you're saying that because this stuff, if you have two rotations, it would be implied that like you have two circles basically, it would be implied that at some point they would separate, and you would see
yes,
one going one way. Okay, I now at least understand where you're coming from, and that is something that like in terms of the dual pole models, that is a question like, is there a place where the stars separate? New Perspective claims there is, and there's those discussions. So, okay, at least now I understand what you're saying. I understand why you would have that contention. I don't think that. Well, I mean, have you explored the whole Earth though? Have you gone to the deep Pacific to know whether they do or not separate or not? Can I ask that?
well, there's land in 3 different places, unless you want. We have South Africa, South America, and then Australia, and then all the north. There's everybody in the north. So
Okay.
where is this
Well,
separation meant to take place? Just in the south, where there's water, but not in the north, where there's land?
well, I guess like I mean, on the dual pole type layouts, it would have to happen like in the Pacific, basically, in the deep like middle of the Pacific, like the blue side of the ball.
Well,
You know, half of the globe is
it
the
would
blue.
happen along the
I'm not.
equator, wouldn't it?
Gio, yeah, that's the exact
Yeah.
argument. So if given flat model X, separation occurs, separation does not occur, therefore flat model X is false.
Yes.
But yeah, I
Well
know the
done.
argument better than you do. Thanks.
Yes, you're
But
correct.
that
Well done.
argument does not. Why do you have to chime through me? Can you just mute?
Well, she
Why,
was
why
just
does it have to
interjecting,
be
but
like this?
let
Does it
him
have
say
to
his
be like
point.
this?
Well, she might have
I'm
interrupted.
really
She was just
concise
He's being-
and specific with
He's
my
being really
points.
antagonistic for no reason. Is there a reason you're doing that?
Yeah, just don't
Because you
cut him
guys
off.
constantly
Just don't cut him
chime
off. It's
through
cool.
me.
Just
You
let him
guys
say his
constantly
point.
chime through me. I take time to write out what I'm going to say, so that way I don't take up everyone's time, and then you chime through me and avoid my point every time.
Okay, I think all Trouble was doing was interjecting. I don't think she was trying to interrupt, but let's hear your point. Go ahead.
Well, the first part was yes, and then it was some other bullshit. But Yeah, so if flat model X separation occurs, separation does not occur, therefore flat model X is true. This would disprove a specific flat model. This does not disprove topography, nor does it prove uniform curvature, which is necessitated on a globe. It's still affirming the consequent. It's saying if globe thing happens, therefore globe. Doesn't solve the problem.
Okay, what's your response to that, Trouble? Because that it only falsifies one type of model or idea, the separation thing?
Well, it seems to falsify every model except the globe one. That if he wants to claim it's affirming the consequence or whatever, okay, fine. Doesn't
Consequent.
make you right, and it doesn't make me wrong.
You don't
Love
know
it.
what affirming the consequent is.
Well, you just explained it 7 times. I think I do.
Okay, can you illustrate it back to me if you know what it is?
No, because you're boring and this is pointless, that it doesn't make the Earth flat.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
I'm not a flat earther. Now you look retarded. By the way, don't lie to me and say you know what something is when you don't. You don't know what it is. You're acting like you do so you can hand wave dismiss it, which is by definition bad faith.
Galley, do you believe the Earth is spherical?
Okay.
Well, okay, if he's not going to answer that, I mean, if you want to answer that,
hold on,
go ahead.
I
That's
want
just
him to answer.
fogging. That's just fogging. It's a smoke machine.
So you're not going to answer it, Galley?
Do I believe the Earth is a circle?
I said, do you believe the Earth is spherical in shape?
No, it's impossible for it to be spherical.
Oh, you're a no-earther, so you're not a flat earther, you're not a globe earther, but you don't know what it is. Congratulations.
You know it's not spherical. It doesn't have uniform curvature throughout the whole thing. That's what a sphere is.
I think that would be a nut earther.
Yeah, he's a nut.
No, I just don't make claims that I can't substantiate logically, and you do. That makes me better than you.
2025 and you don't know the
Galley,
shape
do
of
you
the
believe?
Earth. Wow.
Galley, do you believe all pictures of the Earth showing the entirety of the Earth from space are fake?
Trouble about, can you tell me what affirming the consequent is since you claim that you know what it is? And if you don't know what it is, can you rescind your claim that you know what
Galley,
it
are you
is?
not going to answer?
No,
Are you not
mate.
going to answer my
No, mate, I
question?
can't
Hold
do
on.
that,
Yeah, because
and I
you're
won't do that.
fogging.
Okay,
What
so
Jake, is
you
you're
came
running
in here
cover.
accusing us
Jake,
of
you're
refusing
running
to answer questions.
interference.
You
You're
came in
running
here accusing
interference
us.
because someone on your side is getting domed.
You came in here accusing us of refusing to
You're
answer
running
questions, and it's
interference
literally what
because
you do
someone's
every
locked in
time
a
in these
corner.
conversations.
This is interference. So, in the conversation that was actually happening, someone claimed to understand that they're not affirming the consequent and then that they know what affirming the consequent is, and then they couldn't illustrate what it was. So, what you're doing is running interference because you know there's a standstill there.
This is tedious, I've got to be
but
honest.
I know, but each person is allowed to share their viewpoints. So, I mean, unless we're just like banning people, people are allowed to say what they want. So, I mean, as long as they're not like ad homing and doing all that stuff. So, I mean, I know you guys don't like what he's saying. If you don't want to engage with it, that's your choice. But but it's his angle and what he's bringing forth. And so either you guys can rebut it or not engage or whatever you want to do. But, I mean, I'll just ask everyone on Galtrax instead, but aren't there certain things, though, that are impossible on certain other things? Like if there's no curvature, the Earth can't be a sphere, for example. And to try to give Troubled About like the most leeway I can, like in my contribution, I just made this little image. It's very basic and all that. But if you have two rotations, which we have, like the northern and southern, what she's sort of saying, I think, is that like those green arrows in that image I just posted, the green arrows would have to deviate if you have two rotations. So is that not like a consequence of two rotations that would be on a planar surface? I think that's where she's going with it. She's trying to say if that's not happening, then two rotations are impossible, which I actually don't think is necessarily entirely fallacious, depending on how it's worded or how it's considered, and or whether there's another way that you can have two rotations that wouldn't have this, which I think there can be. But is that trouble? I'm trying to steel man and just trying to give as much good faith in my understanding of what you're saying.
Yes, thank you. Yes. And I'm not going to engage with him. You guys can. I'll let you.
Pass.
I mean, like certain things can't be on, like if someone were to say the Earth's a sphere, but it has no curvature, like that would be problematic, right? Like a sphere has to have it wouldn't really be affirming the consequent necessarily. Well, I mean, it could still be phrased that way, but to say like Earth has no curvature. I didn't think through what I was going to say. I'm saying like you could do an argument that. Well, you would still have to phrase it to not be logically fallacious, but I mean, there are certain exclusive things that would have to be the case for certain other things to happen, like curvature on the ground. Star thing is tricky because like, what is the sky? And like, I think you could have two rotations and still not have a separation point, but there would have to be some kind of like a holographic mirroring or something occurring for it to be the case. Because otherwise, like if you just think of like two ceiling fans next to each other, obviously like they deviate. Then there would be a point.
Have you ruled out like two
deviate.
different star trails, like two different gears? How have you excluded that?
But gears deviate if they're two circular gears, right?
Well, like what Taking Back Eden just posted, right? How has one ruled that out? So to make the exclusive claim, this doesn't work on any flat model, right? That would
Because
be
it doesn't
affirming
match
the
what. Sorry.
See,
Doesn't
you
match
say
what
you're
we
not going to
see.
engage with me, and then you interrupt me while I'm speaking. So
Well, it doesn't
anyway,
match what we see. What he posted doesn't match what we see. We don't see two star rotations overlapping.
yeah, so I'm gonna finish what I'm saying. So anyway, if to say it doesn't work on any flat model, it would be affirming the consequent. To say it doesn't work on given conceived flat model, and you present a flat model that doesn't work on, sure, that's a reasonable argument. But to say that this must prove globe, it's affirming the consequent because it's if globe, then thing. Thing, therefore globe. You haven't proven curvature. You've shown a phenomenon that you can explain, and you're using what's called an appeal to silence, which is the absence of evidence is evidence of absence, and you're using that to make an argument that it must be a globe. You haven't excluded anything except one conceived model that you haven't even presented.
It rules out every flat Earth version that's been offered up so far. Is that more precise for you?
Well, the thing is, trouble. I
Absence
think the
of
reason,
evidence is not evidence of absence.
I think the reason, like what he's saying, there's certain validity to it is because the problem with affirming the consequent is that it could be for another reason. Like, you know, that one where it's like the sidewalk is wet, therefore it must have rained, or the, the sidewalk is wet. There, I'm not saying it right now, but like the sidewalk is, what is that one, Galatrax? The wet sidewalk one.
Yeah, so like if the sidewalk is wet, it must have rained. The sidewalk is wet. Or, I'm sorry,
Therefore,
it rained, therefore the sidewalk is wet.
Exactly. I just forgot.
If the sidewalk is indoors, then yeah, that would be true, wouldn't it?
Well, hold on. The
No, it
reason I was
wouldn't
bringing that one up,
actually.
though,
And no, it's not true. Like, look, if I
hold
were
on,
to
let me just
apply the
finish my
same
point, though.
standard,
Hold on. I was just asking you for the wording of that because in the moment I was like half doing something else and I just wanted to. Yeah. So if the sidewalk is wet, it must have rained. The sidewalk is wet, therefore it rained. The problem with that kind of, and that is affirming the consequent. The problem with it is that there's other reasons that the sidewalk could be wet. Like maybe somebody turned the hose on, maybe the fire hose was on, whatever it is, right? There's other reasons. That's why potentially it's logically fallacious because you may not be getting to the truth because there could be another explanation. So with the two rotational thing, I hear what you're saying, that if we think about it like in a very simplistic physical way of like two ceiling fans or two kind of rotations, that there would be this huge point at which the stars all deviate. However, there could be another way that it's happening that is over a planar Earth that you haven't ruled out. So to go to the conclusion of therefore it has to be a globe when it could be another explanation other than just simplistic two rotations, I think is what he's saying is why it's fallacious. And would you agree, Trouble, that if there's something else going on, that it is a planar Earth, that your conclusion that this leads to a globe Earth would be faulty?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have to like
geometrically it doesn't work. And I didn't make up geometry.
If it was the only evidence that we had, possibly yes. But it isn't the only evidence that we have.
Well, like see that thing that Eden posted the last thing he posted of the two, like the new perspectives with the two star wheels? Like those wheels obviously deviate. So if you just take, and those are the two star wheels, the southern and northern stars. So if you just take those southern and northern stars, you smack them on a flat table and you rotate them, then there would be that massive deviation point, which is what she's saying, I think, is that geometrically, by just taking those two star things, making them flat, well, you're taking the northern hemisphere stars and the southern hemisphere stars, which are all the stars that we ever see, as far as we know, unless there's more land out there or something, and you flatten them out and you plop them on a flat table and then you spin them. I mean, I do hear what she's saying, but
There's no center observer for that. So the center observer would be this image, right? That's the point. So like, there's two observers there. There's one on the left, one on the right. If there was a center observer, it would be this image in that model. But if so, like the sidewalk is wet argument is if it rained last night, then the sidewalk is wet. The sidewalk is wet. Therefore, it must have rained last night. And if you say there's no other explanation, and then you see neighbor Joe with a hose, now all of a sudden your argument sucks. So if I applied the same standard, I would say, well, the universe doesn't make much sense in the globe model. Do you know the exact size of the universe? I need the exact size of it so that way I can model it out. And the fact that you don't know the exact size of it, I then use as evidence for the globe model not being the case. See, that's horrible reasoning, and you guys would never accept that, but you expect people to accept that on the other side of the table, which is, it's just completely wrong.
Yeah, but I'm using geometry.
What's the size of the universe? What's the geometry of the universe?
What's the geometry of Earth's star movement? We're talking about the star rotation. So what's the geometry of the star movement? And show me how that works on a flat Earth, on a dome.
Yeah, you're talking about the stars. Stars are located
No
in the
one can
universe.
put
What's
it
the geometry of the
two
entire universe?
rotations. No one can put two rotations over a dome and make it match what we see.
Do you
What's
agree
he
the
troubled
stars
about?
are located in
Not
the
that hard to
universe?
understand. Not that hard. We're looking about the stars from the perspective of Earth.
Do you agree that the stars exist within the universe?
Most likely, I guess.
Okay, so do you know the entire size of the universe and all the
I'm
qualities
not
of
looking
it?
at the universe. I'm looking at the stars from Earth.
The
Don't need
stars
to
that
know
exist in the universe, do you
what's
agree to?
happening way out in the universe. That's a red herring, as you would call it.
Good point. So if I were to use the argument, you don't know the entire size of the universe, nor where the stars are, nor how far the universe expands, if it has an ending or not. If I said that, well, that proves it's not a globe because you don't know the entirety. You don't have a model for the entirety of the universe. You agree that that'd be a ridiculous argument against the globe? Yes or no?
We are only using the stars that we can see from Earth.
Non sequitur.
It's not. We're talking about reality from Earth.
Do the stars that you're seeing from
I
Earth
don't
exist
care.
within? This is so bad faith.
No, you're bad faith.
Wrong. I'm trying to get to a conclusion. I'm trying to show you an analogy that your argument, if I were to use the same way of arguing, you wouldn't accept it, and you're doing the exact thing that I expected, not accepting it. See? You're proving my point, by the way, by not accepting the argument I'm proposing. Oops.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Well, Trouble, were you putting it forth as an argument, or were you just saying that's how you see it? I guess maybe that could be defined. Like, were you just saying, hey, this is how I see it, or were you putting it forth as an argument, like to be rebutted, as if it's, or is it just like, because I mean, I can kind of see both sides of this. Like, I can understand like the logical part of it, or as an argument, but I also meaning that there could be some issues in coming to the conclusion if you're only assuming like one type of star rotation. But I also hear what you're saying in terms of the two rotations and that implied deviation that would be there. But I also think that there could be other ways. Like, I'm not trying to get too wild right now, but like, like a lenticular lens is, where it shows like a slightly different image when you tilt the photograph or the like, you can have like a flat canvas and you can tilt it and you see different things. Like, here, I'll put it in the chat. like one of these. They call them like these hologram images things, and you tilt it and you see a completely different image. Like I'm not trying to get too wild. I'm not trying to get too wild in the combo, but like whatever the Earth is, it just is. Like the physical geometry. Like if water's not curving and the ground's not curving, then we're just on a flat Earth and it's not in motion. So however the stars work, like we'd have to then think about and figure out. But I'm just saying like that lenticular, like I'm not trying to get too wild in another theory, but I'm saying like in my mind, I am open to the possibility that the stars are not like up there in the way of like a physical thing or like a little bubble, like a sonoluminescent bubble. They actually could be like manifestations that change as we change on the Earth. So they change their position or change what we see based on different positions on the Earth. I'm not trying to put forth a whole nother theory. I'm just saying there are other ways that you could have the two rotations where you would not have that deviation and the Earth would be planar and stationary. Therefore, if you're putting that forth as an argument and saying globe because of it, it's like the water is wet thing because of either the rain or a hose. Like there could be something else going on. Therefore, the argument would have that fallacious component, or it would just be coming to a wrong conclusion potentially, or thinking that you've isolated something that's not the truth, kind of thing.
That gift's awesome too, because that also shows that like what if the stars are not what we think they are? So it's not just if globe, it's if globe and the stars are what we think they are, then they do a thing. They do a thing. Therefore therefore globe and the stars are what we think they are. That gift highlights it perfectly, Gio. So it's affirming the consequent in two senses. Both premises are if globe and if the stars are what they think they are. You haven't proven those premises; those are unsupported.
In such a informal discussion as we're having, it's probably easier or better or less contentious if we just assume or just say that everyone who's giving their opinion is just their opinion based on their perception, not necessarily that they're arguing for that as evidence necessarily. I mean, if Trouble says, I saw this and now I think that, that's what Trouble saw and that's now what Trouble thinks.
No, I know, but that's why I was actually, no, I hear you.
Instead of saying that is, I would consider that tangible evidence and you should go with that. It's just a perspective.
I hear you, but in these discussions, like if it's kind of a mix between more of like a podcast discussion vibe or it's a debate vibe, but the thing is, if those are different. So like if you're on the witness stand in a court case, you can't just get up there and be like, oh, you know, I like reggae music and I like chocolate ice cream. Like you're not up there to just waver and wander about your theories. You're up there to answer some real serious questions about, you know, a crime or whatever. So, I mean, if it's more of a debate thing where someone's saying, this is my argument, or I'm asserting like the Earth has to be a globe because of this reason, then people are going to dissect it logically and to try to get to the truth. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be that. Yeah. Whereas if someone just says, I just think this, then it may not be rebutted as much in that way. Like if that's how she's coming to her conclusion, that's fine. But if she's putting that forth as an argument, expecting other people to either agree with it or say, hey, this is the truth because of this argument, then it's going to get rebuttals and, you know, analysis.
Yeah, I mean, why present an idea to an open panel if you don't want people's feedback, for one? For two, if your claim is about the reality, right, the shape of the entirety that people live on, and other people have different ideas, why don't I get a right to say, well, that argument doesn't track that claim of, hey, if globe then this therefore globe? Of course I can say that. So just the way that she has the right to have her opinion about it, I would have the same right to say my opinion about it. Because she's saying flat earthers are wrong because of this, I can say she's wrong because of this. Or globers who say what she says are wrong because of this. And I'm not in either camp, but like the thing you're talking about, Red Cloud, you should, like, you would be advocating for what I'm doing too. Right? Because her position is flat earthers are wrong because of this. So my position would be, well, if someone says that, they're wrong because of this. I mean, it's no different. I just don't understand why there's vitriol when I do it, but there's not vitriol when someone else does it. I'm grounding what I'm saying in logic and argumentation, and I'm saying, like, that doesn't hold when it comes to logic and argumentation. And I don't know why everyone gets defensive when someone points that out.
Because you're looking at it like you're in some kind of a formal debate with like debate bro rules and tactics where if she doesn't
No, I'm
use the
not.
word, if she doesn't, are you going to interrupt me now?
You're telling me how I'm looking at it after I just explicitly said that's not how I'm looking at it.
That's
Please
literally
don't
what
tell
everybody
me
in
my
here.
intent.
That's what everybody in
Well,
here
I think
sees.
No,
Jake,
we
Jake, we can kind
I'll
of move.
speak
I
for
mean,
everyone,
the
Jake.
conversation
We
was like, I feel like this was like 50-50 debate versus just exploration of the ideas. I was more in a style of just asking Trouble about her view, how she sees it, and trying to give some concessions of trying to understand where she's coming from. Galatrax took it more of a debate rebuttal style. I mean, it's it's kind of meta. I mean, she did kind of. I mean, Trouble kind of said it as a debate point, or she was trying to say like this is why it's logically. I mean, don't you agree that? I mean, it could have been a debate thing. It's kind of
Yeah,
50-50.
The
because she
claim
doesn't
this
use the
doesn't
word.
work on any flat Earth model. Like if someone says that and I say, "Hey, that doesn't hold. This could work on a type of flat Earth model." That's not that's not a claim.
We
Yeah,
did
but the
manage to
door
get.
was open for the challenge.
We
And he
did
took
manage
the
to get through
challenge.
about.
Now you guys are crying foul.
We did
Like,
manage
Yeah, I
to
mean,
get through
dude,
about
but
2 hours
also
without
like,
logical fallacies being brought up. That's what I'd say.
well,
Yeah, I wouldn't whine about logical fallacies being brought
I'm not
up.
whining.
Everyone
It's just you're
should
being an
ought
ass.
want. Don't interrupt me. Everyone should ought want their
I
errors
understand.
pointed out. Like if I have an error in my reasoning, I'd ask you guys to point it out for me, and I'd say thank you. Now I can correct myself. Now you've corrected me. Like I wouldn't get defensive about it.
but I mean, Jake and Red Cloud. I mean, Troubled has been like arguing about the star, like having arguments for the stars for a while. So she's kind of known for that in a way. So I mean, obviously, like it is a bit of a contentious. Like she brings
Yeah.
the contention, which I understand where she's coming from in certain ways. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with the argument she put forward for myself. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable like, oh, because of that, it therefore would have to be a globe. Like I wouldn't be, because I would be concerned that I would be missing something, and therefore I would not be getting to the truth because of part of what I agree with what Galatrax said. Technically, some of the fallacious parts of that, like the water is wet because of the sidewalk thing. Like I wouldn't want to walk away being like, oh, it must have rained, even though the truth is somebody turned the hose on. I wouldn't want to sit there and be like, oh
Yeah,
my
but in
god,
an
somebody turned the hose
informal, in the informal context that it's being used here, what she literally means is not that, oh, well, the sidewalk is wet, therefore it rained. She means more along the lines of the sidewalk is wet, which is evidence for it having rained, right? Which is then, not affirming the consequent fallacy, right?
But technically,
That's
she didn't
rewriting
say.
history. She said, no, she said the sidewalk is wet and there's no other explanation for it other than it rained. So you're
Yeah. So
rewriting history.
what she means is there's no. She's not saying it from a
Nice try,
like a
but that's not what
logical,
happened.
like a pure logical syllogism kind of way. She's using it in an informal argument, which is kind of like if I were to say that, if I was to say that, unicorns don't exist because, there's no such animal that's ever been seen. You're going to say that's a fallacy. Just because you haven't seen every animal doesn't mean that this particular animal can't exist, right?
How does you saying unicorns exist or not have any bearing over the reality of the entirety of the thing that I live on?
I mean, Jake, you could put together an argument that would be like an argument from absence, which sounds like where you were going with that, which could be fallacious. Dude, it's just like with logic, with fallaciousness and fallacies, and like when you're trying to get to truth, it's like a fine tooth. You need a fine tooth comb if you're making arguments to really, really get to truth. And that's all I think that part of the conversation.
But this is more along the lines of, well, you're saying that you can't fit any square peg in a round hole, but there may be some situation in which you can put a square peg in a round hole.
But
Right?
it won't be a square.
No,
peg
that
anymore.
would be an appeal to possibility. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is pointing out that you haven't excluded everything. You've excluded one specific thing. So, and I agreed to that, by the way. I gave the best version of Trouble's argument, and she agreed that that was the best version of her argument. But that just excludes one model conceived. So again, the issue remains. The argument has to be if globe and the stars work as we think they do, then this thing would happen. This thing happens, therefore globe and the stars work as we think they do. But this Dragon Ball Z GIF debunks that argument, and also
Well, I
it's affirmed the concept.
disagree. It disproves every version of flat Earth that we've come up with.
See,
Not just
Jake.
one.
So it's not. It's not. It could have rained last night. It's this disproves any possibility other than it rained last night. See?
Well, the
So
distance,
you're wrong.
like the distances, the known distances between all the cities in the world disproves flat Earth because there is no map that you could ever create. There's no two-dimensional location for those cities that you could create that would explain the relative distances to one another.
That
That's
is
not
a different
fallacious.
argument, though. That is
Yeah,
a
it's a red
different.
herring. See, like I called Jake out on it that he's wrong because he tried to rewrite history, rewrite Trouble About's argument. Then she repeated it as I repeated it, and now he needs
But
to
that's
talk about distances.
but that is
So
but that is
see that you
essentially
got?
that is
Can you
essentially
see that
what you
you framed the
no
argument
no no
wrong, and
because
I was right
because
about it?
because when she's talking about what's observed celestially, what's observed with the two poles and the locations of the stars, and they're given location at any given moment for all observers on the Earth. There is no flat two-dimensional plane that can explain that observation, unless you go
So
into
now you're
like
taking on the claim.
unless and this is and we're talking
You're
about
doing the
within
same thing.
reason. I mean,
You're doing
maybe
the
you can
same
go
thing, dude.
into now you could maybe go into, oh well, maybe we're all, we're in a simulation and every individual observer is given a delusion of, their own version of the simulation is being fed into their brain to observe something uniquely for their for
All
you know
right,
for
but
their
can
I
I
mean,
just say, Jake?
outside of that realm of like, we're in some kind of like matrix with being fed a reality or something like that,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is
you're taking
basically
it into
which is
absurdity, but now again you're rewriting history. So now you're saying, yeah, actually it was. No other explanation can explain this, so it has to be globe. So first you said, no, we were saying that like it's the best possible explanation we have. And then I was like, no, that's not the argument. The argument is no other explanation exists. And now that I pointed out that you were wrong about that, now you're like, oh yeah, that is my position. So this is called retreat
well,
tactics, Jake.
no
You're done.
reasonable explanation.
You're done.
In the same way that there's no reasonable explanation for unicorns.
Okay, now it's a Mott and Bailey back to no reasonable explanation. It's not no other explanation
I mean,
exists.
that's what she means by it.
You're so done, man. You just
Because
keep changing what you're
obviously we could
saying.
explain it.
You
Obviously,
keep
it could be
changing what
explained by
you're
the
saying
Matrix,
in the
right?
middle of a discussion. Every time I point out the flaw in what you're saying, then you're gonna switch to the other thing, then back to the other thing. This is super sketchy.
Well, we're trying to work out reality, not Narnia.
Well, I'll say this. Okay, from my perspective, if Troubled was putting that argument forth, I would not find it valid for myself. So if she's just sharing her opinion, I would just say, well, my opinion is it's not valid. And I would say why. But if she's putting it forth as like an argument or saying, hey guys, this is true, can you rebut this? Then Jake, wouldn't you agree that this conversation would have to take place like a court case, like, and people break it down? Because if she's telling people, hey, the earth is a globe because of this, if she's just sharing her opinion and I'm sharing mine, that's one thing. But if she's putting it forth more as like an assertion in that way, as we all know, like if it's more of a debate, like we're a community, like, hey, let's get to the truth. And one person says this thing and this argument, and therefore everyone else is going to be like, okay, is that the truth? Let's, let's think about it so that we can all try to get to that. So, I mean, if that's the case and it's being asserted in that sense, then, if it's a debate style, she would potentially, hypothetically, be expecting others to say, oh, Troubled, I agree with you. It is a globe for that reason. Now I think it's a globe. Or she would expect people to say, nope, I don't think that's valid. I don't think that tells it's a globe because X, Y, Z. And that's what we've been discussing. So, I mean,
I think once you start naming logical fallacies to just an average person who's just trying to have a conversation about something, and when they're saying, well, the sidewalk is wet, which is evidence for it having rained, even though they're not using those words exactly. They're just saying, oh, well, the sidewalk is wet, so it rained. And you're going to say, oh, well, someone could have watered it, or dog could have peed on it, or whatever.
Really?
And then saying, so therefore, it's affirming confirming the consequence fallacy. That's just
No,
a
we're
flat
not
Earth
out in
tactic.
public just
Oh, I
shooting
don't
the
get to
shit with
finish
people.
talking? Okay.
Yeah, we're not out in public. It's completely non-analogous because we're not shooting the shit with people talking casually. We're actually trying to discuss things thoroughly. You're gonna need logic for that. If you throw out logic, you're up shit's creek without a paddle.
Yeah, and if she's putting the argument forth, like I said, expecting others to either agree with her and say, "Oh yeah, you're right, it is a globe for that reason," or for people to say, "Not so fast, I don't think it is a globe for that reason," then it's going to get pushback. Also, Jake, she didn't say technically like this is just evidence for a globe. She said there's no other way it can be other than globe. So I mean, that is pretty much an argument. And I mean, we could ask her if she
That's
feels
the
like
Well,
challenge.
geometrically, yes,
That's the
geometrically.
challenge right
Show me
there.
another version that I might have gotten it wrong. Give me other versions of geometrically how this could work and match what we see.
Yeah, I got you. I'll post it in the chat. Are these lines parallel or not?
Do they separate anywhere so that there's two circles side by side?
Are they actual
I
measurements
posted the
or
image in the
observations
chat.
of
Are
the
they
Earth?
parallel or not?
Do they have anything to do with the shape of the Earth?
I
Yes,
posted the
Or are
image
he's
in the
they just
asking.
chat. Are they parallel or not?
What do you mean? Well, we know either side they're going to go around in a circle. So what do you mean parallel?
The lines in the photo, are they parallel or not?
The ones in the middle along the equator? Yeah.
Okay, so you agree there is convergence?
No. They
Okay,
don't
so what's going on in the
further
center?
away from each other.
So the stuff on the left and the stuff on the right, what's going on in the center?
The celestial equator is going on in the center, and there's not two circles separating, is there?
The stuff on the left is doing a thing. The stuff on the right is doing a thing. And as they move close to the center, they're doing a thing. What is that thing they're doing in the center? What would you call that? The
I have no
equator.
idea.
It's convergence. You know it's convergence.
They're not
They're
separating and
converging in the
rejoining.
center. They're
There's not two
converging in the
circles
center,
side
right?
by side. Do you see how they're close to each other? You want two circles side by side that only touching one point. Where is that happening here?
Notice how you're specifically not saying they're converging because you don't want the person talking to you to make a point. But you know they're converging, you just won't say it. This is why I said you're bad faith. They are
Okay.
converging in the center. You know that.
They appear to be converging and diverging. The globe people will say they are parallel. Some will, like latitude line, celestial sphere, but they appear that way. So, yeah, what is your response to that, Trouble? Like, are they deviating, converging, and diverging, or not, in your view?
Not enough to make two separate circles on a flat Earth. No.
Not the question.
I don't care if it's the question.
Yeah, because you're bad faith. You try to force a non-conclusion.
I'm bad faith. Yay. Deal
The
with it.
definition of bad faith is to try to force a non-conclusion. That's what you've been doing the entire time.
Oh my god.
I don't necessarily
Just
agree with that part. I think because I actually hear what she's saying. Even with that point, like it's not enough enough deviation for, like, let's say on a dual pole thing, if the stars were really completely deviating, then that amount of deviation is really not enough. So I kind of hear what she's saying there. Like you would have to, like, the idea of maybe like at the equator they're only deviating slightly, then you'd have to get like way out on the east or west side of that like dual pole kind of layout idea until they would really be dramatically. So I think that's what she's saying. Why is that bad faith if she's just saying not enough for what that would mean, with assuming like two rotations with like physical stars above, whether they're balls or whatever, that are like very mechanical, like gears. Don't
Well, you asked why is it bad faith? It's because the question is, are they converging or are they appearing to converge as you understood it, and it's just not answered. So obviously, I'm not just like, am I just asking that question and then I'm gonna drop it, or is there maybe a point I'm trying to make by trying to go to the next?
Yes, you think you have a gotcha that you don't have.
It's not a
That's why I'm
gotcha.
not
It's just a
playing
Socratic
your
method.
game.
Yeah, I know you're
No, it is
afraid of a
gotcha.
gotcha,
I
but
know
I'm
you
just
think
asking
you've
if
got
they're
a gotcha, but you
converging
don't.
so we can establish common ground. You're refusing to
I will
establish
never have common ground, so let's not even bother trying.
You're refusing to establish common ground because you're trying to force a non-conclusion.
I don't agree with
Anybody
that
who looks at this
analysis.
picture would say they appear to be converging in the center.
I just don't agree because when you asked that, she said yes they are, but not enough for the flat Earth model, maybe the dual pole or whatever that she was thinking. So she did answer it. She's not trying to just completely avoid a conclusion. She answered it.
That was the fourth time I asked, though. I mean, if she said, yeah, they appear to converge in the center, but that's not enough. Like, that's one thing. But if I ask 4 times and every time it's dodged and like just purposefully being difficult, that's definitionally bad faith. I mean, I get like why I do want to continue the discussion, but so a flat Earth with any type of like rotating celestial dome, if you imagine the sky as a rotating dome or a disk above the plane, stars rotate around the central axis over the quote unquote pole. Observers at different positions would see stars like trace arcs of different sizes and apparent directions. So we don't know the
Well, from
distance
that
of these
picture,
things.
they
Okay.
don't appear to separate and can come back together.
Yeah.
No, they're
I
very
was, I was
close
definitely
together.
done talking.
I don't care.
I know you don't
You
care.
wanted an
You're
answer. You
bad
wanted an
faith.
answer, and they don't look like they're separating at all, even though I know that they do from that angle. To me,
All right, let
they
me know
don't
I
look
can
like
finish
they
my
are at all.
point. I don't care what your point is. Yeah, 'cause you're bad faith.
Wait, I gotta go mow lawns anyway.
See, opposite rotations only require 2 rotation centers in the sky and observers on opposite sides. They do not require a spherical or globe Earth. Stars appear fixed relative to each other because their distances are astronomically large. So lines of sight, they're effectively parallel. No convergence is expected on a flat plane with a rotating celestial dome that can reproduce both opposite rotations and fixed constellations. This phenomenon is not exclusive, nor does it uniquely imply a globe. It can also occur on a flat Earth with a rotating sky.
No, because as soon as you add another observer at a different location, you can't explain why the entire celestial sphere just tilted.
Can you address what I said?
I did just address what you said. It's not accurate. It cannot be replicated over a flat Earth because on a flat Earth, you should see the same. You should not see the entire celestial sphere tilt with your movement across the surface of the flat Earth.
The celestial sphere cannot tilt because the celestial sphere is an abstraction and doesn't have concrete existence in reality.
Oh God, this guy.
Oh
Yeah, so the
God!
claim is
Didn't I
essentially
just prove
on
you?
a flat Earth, if you move north or south, the celestial pole should stay in the same orientation relative to you. So you couldn't get the apparent tilt of the stars. Only a globe explains why the celestial sphere appears tilted at different latitudes. But a flat plane model could explain it. The sky rotates around a central axis, so the North Pole for the northern rotation, the South Pole for the southern rotation. Observers at different distances from the center view, right? The same rotation axis at different angles. So if you're close to the northern center, the rotation axis is high in the sky. The pole appears near the zenith. If you're far from the northern center, toward the equator, the rotation axis is lower in the sky. The pole appears to tilt toward the horizon. The same for southern rotation. The tilt changes depending on distance to the southern rotation center. So the tilted celestial sphere would just be a matter of perspective. It's an abstract thing that you look at, and as you move, it changes. It's not curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, it remains an abstraction. So first and foremost, it's just an abstraction. So because the globe model proponent or that mathematical model includes it in its modeling to make itself make sense or work in a way with its infinite distance to stars, etc. Doesn't mean that that's actually what's going on. And you yourself claim that there's not an infinite distance to stars. So you guys got to choose which one is it? Is there an infinite distance to stars? Do you treat them as such, or is there not? Well, it goes to show that obviously there's not an infinite distance to stars. It's not like it's like a video game where more distance just simulates as you travel or approach or as it continues. That's a claim. It's a model, you know, works with a model. Doesn't work in
They
reality.
have
Never been verified, established, or proven in reality, that is. Other than, in reality, when exploring and dealing with concepts such as that abstraction. So, what you're going to do about it? Well, we don't need to disprove something abstract in order to say that this real, concrete, physical, tangible, knowable thing exists. We don't need to meddle with ideas about existence and universe and its metaphysics, or the metaphysics, in order to just say, well, this is metaphysics. What about your beliefs and ideas, etc.? Well, okay, you have
Siak,
them.
do you have
Fine.
any? Yeah, Siak, do you even have an intention of passing the mic, or do you just feel like you got the mic, you're just going to hang on and keep going, and go into
just
lecture
done.
mode? Well, we're trying to have a good
It-
combo. I'm waiting to get in. Like, what are we doing? You're just
It's a good
monologuing.
combo.
I know,
It's a
but
good combo.
my question is, do you have an intention to finish a point and pass the mic? Do you have that intention, or are you just waiting for someone to ask you to stop monologuing, expect everybody listens to the monologue, or interrupts you? What is your intention? Or do you have an intention to say a piece to the community and let other people continue? Is that your intention? Because it doesn't seem like it is. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated, but I want to get in, other people want to get in, and you're going on a whole long diatribe now.
Well, I'm sorry I'm putting everything so obvious and blunt, but yeah, you can get in. Sorry if it feels like I'm hogging the mic. That's not my intention here. I'm passionate about this type of conversation because what's getting mixed up here, that's very normal for some reason. And it bothers me that people can't differentiate between an idea and that, from reality, and understand that an idea, it's simply an idea. No matter how much concept you build together with it and into things, making abstractions, etc., doesn't make them more, less true even, for that matter. But they remain ideas, and that's just it. Sorry if I went on a tangent, but I hope my point has been, well, thoroughly pointed out.
I think I get what you're saying. So things like the stars, the distance to the stars, what the stars are doing, whether they're moving or the so-called ball is moving, how they interact with the sky, where they are in the sky, all of these things are not concrete proven in reality. They're just given, assumed, and even the ball itself is given, assumed, and then they use these given assumed things to that, like these abstractions or concepts that they've abstracted, to say that it proves the concept in the abstraction, which is absurd. That's not a thing proven in reality. Does that sort of summarize it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, yes.
Which, I call that affirming the consequence, because same thing. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, and also they're jumping to the conclusion. For circular or recursive logic, when they just point to the abstraction, it's just they always forget that call it view of self, in this sense, view of the model. They don't manage to step outside. For some reason, I said this yesterday, I'll say it shortly so I don't monologue again. But I remember a time when, when I was younger and I was taught in school, this is a theory. This happens with a lot of things. Eventually, as I grow up, I noticed that the people who are younger than me, eventually they learn less of it being a theory, and it's just eventually just talked about as if it is real, or it's like that, or it's just that. Eventually, it's just that's how reality is. But the thing is, it's still a theory. So just because it became more normal to talk about the theory didn't mean that it suddenly started having existence. But that's what's happening, and that's what's going on with the globe model as well. It's always been a model. Doesn't prove much other than its own nature, that of being a model.
Yeah, so like within the model's internal assumptions, we've investigated how this would work on the model. given its internal assumptions, and concluded that it is internally consistent. If we assume the things are true, we prove the assumption. So we assume some stuff is true, we investigate as if it is true, and then we treat that investigation as proof that the initial assumption that we're basing it on is true. Just, yeah, it's circular, it is recursive, and it is affirming the consequence. That's right.
Okay, the point I was going to say can build on that. SEACT, I apologize for getting a bit frustrated. It just feels sometimes like you do link a lot of points together, and to me, it feels like almost like more of a lecture mode where I'm just listening to one person. I mean, other people sometimes go on somewhat long too. Maybe it's your style, or you do put a lot of ideas together at once. And anyways, I apologize for getting frustrated, but we do want to try to keep it flowing because other people want to get in. And I mean, it wasn't like you didn't go on like too long. I mean, some people have gone on longer at times, but maybe if you could just, as much as possible, just try to keep it concise enough to like 1 or 2 points where we can kind of build on it, because you do have a lot to say and you do have a lot of technical information to share, and it is a lot of good stuff, but maybe just like somewhat smaller pieces so we can digest it. Instead of more of like a lecture. I'm not trying to say that critically, but if it's more of a lecture mode, it's more like it's a different style than kind of being able to jump in. Maybe that's just how I perceive you in that way too. But anyways, I apologize in that way. But yeah, it's not. Yeah. Anyways, so if we could just try to keep. Okay, cool. Yeah, just keep it flowing to a degree. But just the quick thing I was trying to say, just Jake. I mean, the thing is like. And linking with all that with the abstraction component of it, like if exclusive claims are being made, like it has to be a globe because of this, that is a pretty strong claim, because that's implying that anyone who doesn't think it's a globe is wrong because there's quote unquote just this obvious exclusive thing. But if the exclusive thing is based in abstractions and some of these different components of the model, then that's why they would be rebutted. You know what I mean? Because to make an exclusive claim, like if I say to you, like, well, you have to, you're a woman because of this exclusive thing. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not a woman. And so the thing you're saying can't be exclusive. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that larger point of like, if someone's making a claim of exclusivity, then whether, the soundness of what they're putting forth, because they're expecting other people to be like, oh yeah, that is exclusive. You're right. If we were just to say you're right, or it's like, well, wait a minute. And that's where SEACT was in terms of the abstraction components of it. And some of these parts that are when there's assumptions, which is a lot of what's brought up with the globe arguments. And in my view, I don't think the globe position can ever really have solid argumentation and exclusivity that's compelling, which is why we're this far into this and virtually nobody's flipped back to globe. And more people are coming away from the globe, it seems, over time.
I think Jake backed out or discounted or something, but Gio, you're spot on when you point out the whole you're a woman because of this or that part. Because, see, the issue with that is that person is making a claim about you and your reality and your experience and your attributes, right? Whereas it wouldn't matter if they said, based on this or that, I think I'm a woman. That wouldn't matter to us at all. But if they make a claim about you and your reality, your experience, etc., that all of a sudden does apply to you, and you do have a right, just as they have a right to make a claim about your reality, you would have a right to make a claim about your reality. Like, the idea that they can make a claim about your reality, but you can't defend your reality is crazy talk, right? Like, if someone said, no, I can say you're a woman and that's how your reality works, but if you were to refute that and argue back, you're, sir, I mean, how dare you? Like, that's crazy talk. No one would say that. So when it comes to, like, this is what Earth shape is, that's not just a claim about that person's reality, that person's experience. That's a claim about literally what every person lives on. So of course they have a right to refute it. Of course they have a right to say, no, that's not the case. If you can make a claim about everyone else's position, why wouldn't they be able to say, no, that's not the case? You're making a claim about their position.
It's also kind of interesting because we all share the earth in a way, like we're all here. We all share this reality. So it's like, if somebody made a claim about like, you're a woman, you're a man, like that's something personal about you. But if someone makes a claim about the earth, ironically, it's like the body of the earth that we all live here. So in a way, it is kind of making a claim about you in a way, because it's like it could be said that like you're living on, I'm not saying we're living on different earths, but it's like you're living on the earth, I'm living on the earth, and the earth is the common thing we share. So if I were to say, hey, the earth is a dinosaur, and you're like, well, wait a minute, it's part of the place I live. It's like part of your world,
Yeah, I mean, if anything, by that metric, everyone would have a right to chime in then, right? Not only chime in, but make their own exclusive claims about your reality. They could say, no, actually, we live on a chicken nugget. And you, like, what, now you don't have the right to say that's absurd? And that seems to be where, like, this whole, like, don't call out fallacies, you're ruining the vibe. This is supposed to be a casual discussion. I always get that, but it's like, well, don't make fallacious claims or claims that are errors in reasoning that pertain to my specific experience. Why would you do that and think that I don't have a right to refute that? Of course I do.
Yeah, do we want to lower our IQ or increase it?
It's called Earth Awakenings, not Earth Sleepings, is what I'm saying.
Well, and it's a huge question and a big topic because obviously the shape of the earth just in general is a huge component of, obviously, if we're being lied to and not on a globe, and we're in this whole global society basically, and the claims that the Nazis discovered space in the 1950s, that's a very likely story. Sure, yeah, the Nazis did it. And trusting those guys, I guess, since they were the ones that first claimed to go to space. NASA was established by Nazis, and then Werner von Braun and the pals, and then right into Sputnik and everything in the 60s. So basically, we're in a society right now that World War II happened, and literally Nazis developed rockets and went to space and showed us that we're on a globe. That's the position we're in. Now, I know it's more than that. They're going to claim the histories and the other components, and it wasn't only Nazis, and NASA's made of more than only Nazis. I know all the kind of counter arguments in a way, but I'm just saying that is quite a claim.
You missed a little bit. It was communists as well as Nazis.
Commies and Nazis took us
Communists
to space.
And Nazis.
Yeah. And the significance for the future of humanity. In my view, the globalist agenda is driving humanity into more and more chaos. And unless something shifts, we may not even have a human. We may not even have a human race in the coming future if they keep genetically modifying and vaccinating us to God knows where. Then the actual future of humanity could depend on truth at the end of the day, and certain truths being established. So yeah, people are going to make claims. And that's why obviously the tension about the earth is quite there's a lot riding on it. And it's heated with individual people, but then there's a lot that it represents. And I think even you would agree, Red Cloud, like if it's not a globe, that's quite significant.
Yes, I would agree with.
Yeah, I refuse to be sold a bad deal. So when someone presents a deal and they say, this is the case, I mean, I think we were all sold a bad deal at some point in time. I think we were all given a story at some point in time, and it wasn't right. I mean, even if you believe in like mainstream theories, I mean, why did we go to Iraq in the first place? Like, I could go through the slew of reasons. Was it oil? No, wait, it was WMDs. No, wait, it was counterterrorism. Right? No, wait, it was guarding poppy fields. Like, at what point do you say, like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be sold a bad deal, and maybe I should consider when someone presents a claim about this is the case, maybe I should take a second and say, is it? And, like, maybe you won't get sold a bad deal again.
Absolutely. Information helps you make informed decisions.
That's right.
Yeah, we was sold a bad deal about Santa Claus. And we all bought it, and we all went with it. We thought Santa was coming down the chimney, and we all spent times in our childhood actually thinking that was reality, at least at some point. Like, how does he fit down the chimney, and he eats the cookies, and how does he bring all those presents? And imagining him flying around with his reindeer and dropping presents off to all the kids or whatever. So
don't forget, like, there's like tiny amount of fear in that, man. He sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake, knows
That's
when
the
you've been
song.
bad or good, right? Like there's
That's just
fear
a
in
song.
that too.
The whole image we have of Santa comes from two origins. One is Coca-Cola, and two is basically Jewish songwriters who came up with those songs. If you find out who wrote those songs, they're Jewish
Jews.
people. It's so funny. But
That's
there was
true, man.
Their
If you
Lives
look
did
up,
one, and they Donner and
you look
Blitzen
up
and
all
those
the
songs.
songwriters of the Christmas songs, Red Cloud's on it.
The secular ones are, yeah. The secular ones are mostly Jewish, I think, yeah.
Most of the ones that people know are the secular ones. Most of
Yeah.
them.
And about Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman. I don't know about those, but there are some.
Yep.
And some are pop songs. Santa Claus Coming to Town, that was a pop song.